at a simple package. So a simple package, kind of this title page, was to keep it relatively simple, not explain a whole lot of what's going to happen in this chapter. And so it's really meant to just kind of be a surprise. Like I said, this is the point in the story where I really wanted to start pushing Aurora and the crew making decisions and driving the story. And so this does seem a little different, or opposite of that idea. We'll kind of start to see how they're presented with a situation and the decisions they make influence the story. So let's get into it. So we start off with a dress montage. So new looks for the characters. So we got more belts for Tyria, some gloves for Sarah Verge, and a new cape for Aurora. Which this, I believe, is the look that on the homepage of Gratz she has. This is when I was able to make that title page and such. And I thought about changing out the looks as the story went on, but never done it yet. Really. And so kind of for the record, I think part of the reason why is this is perhaps one of my favorite Aurora looks. So yeah, we get that nice little detail in there. And we have them bothering her to get a move on that. They're hungry. So, so it's him talking when a person asks for help, that she just needs this package delivered. Old orc grandma. And so that's just kind of that. So that's what we see what's up with. Just like I said, that's now 2 pages in, they got their package, and they're on the move. Tyria kind of just chatting with them about should they really be getting involved with delivering the package and stuff. And kind of Aurora acknowledging that, yeah, they've been played a lot, but that doesn't mean that they should stop helping. Sarah Roger thinking that the package is just cookies. So they're kind of standing off to the side here as we see some Feuer troops go marching by. And I can't remember if I explained this earlier or not in this commentary, but I'll explain it here again since we'll be seeing the Feuer troops more often. This red stuff on their armor is actually paint. It's to help hide their injuries if they get injured in battle. So that way it's harder to tell what is paint and what is blood. And likewise, it also makes them look more scary in battle because they look like they're blood drenched already. So a bit of psychological warfare tying into with these big plated armor stuff. So Tyria is kind of explaining what's going on with Feuer, and here we have some actual metallurgy being applied to their stuff. Why Feuer armor looks the way it does. It actually ties into that their armor, the metal itself for Feuer, is incredibly, listen now, how do I have it written? Is a strong but brittle metal. Listen now, she says, meaning it has a minimum thickness requirements, otherwise it just breaks under stress. This is an actual principle with actual metallurgy, and that is if a metal is flexible, it could bend. If a metal is brittle, it will break. And so that's just a bit of stuff there. And kind of explain that what is this, I say magic metal, but this unique metal principle. This unique metal principle is called Feuer. That's just it. Feuer is German for metal or iron. And so that's why the kingdom is called that. It's named after the metal. So that's kind of what with that. In addition to this explanation, I forgot. But we have kind of going on is that the reason why only Feuer troops can wear this armor and why we don't see all Meyer or Thousand Land people using it. And it comes down to that they don't have the bone and muscle structure to support the weight of the metal because it has to be a minimum. It has a minimum thickness. It's very heavy, so you need to be able to support that weight. And so we kind of see here tying into how I divided up the different races from Warcraft into the kingdoms. And going to Feuer, we had a lot more square and stout races, like the dwarves, orcs, and tarns being put together, whereas the lankier trolls were put off into their own group, and the human and elves being thinner and not as stout being in their own group as well. So that's kind of what's up with that. I suppose the trolls got gnomes, which became pygmies. But, I think pygmies are different enough. So we come here and we see I've been practicing trying to do some more mountains in the background. They're giving them more sharper peaks and trying to work on the block and a nice gradient as well. And a creepy fog forest. So they set up camping outside. We're kind of heckling Sarah Virgin about a crush. So that's just a bit of humor right there. What's now? And now Tyree is involved in heckling Sarah Virgin, so he's kind of tired. Or just mess around. That's just kind of that. We have Aurora wondering about the proper use of her powers, and they're suspiciously not where they look like they fell asleep on panel. And as she's thinking, it comes to a dream, or it turns out that she's in a dream. And so much like I like to have fun with dream segments, just dealing with the absurd reality of it. We got Sarah Virgin riding a unicorn with a pet eagle. Oh, and of course, shirtless. This now basically kind of this idea that he came over from Tyria's dream. So that's what's up with that. Now, while I didn't explain this, and I think I made a mistake with the unicorn here, Tyria is not the unicorn. I think the mistake I made is giving them both blue hair, even though it's different color blue. That was just a bad decision on my part. So she should be somewhere off in her own dream, waiting to be dazzled by Sarah Virgin. So that's kind of what's up with that. And Tyria had some good sleep. So, just bringing in more humor. I think I was trying to be funnier at this part of the story. So we have them going into the woods and me practicing making some creepy trees with more sparse leaves up there. And we got this town wall where I made a different wall texture for it. So that is actually something unique. Say that the wall is to keep someone out, but not them, so they quickly get yanked inside by this altar, and you can see he's got this sword here next to him. And it says something about the Goatman. And Tari is kind of explaining that there's some aggressive things that live out in the mountains. And so it's kind of a surprise as to why they would be this far away from the mountains and attacking this smaller town. And so this is kind of the reasoning for this is a byproduct of the war. That with a lot of the Feuer troops away fighting Olmire, they aren't there to keep the Goatmen in check, so the Goatmen are able to move out and kind of start hitting far off areas. The whole reason kind of for this was to kind of show a reflection of how war changes, I guess you could, or large-scale warfare changes the civilian side of life, and kind of what's going on with them. And so that's kind of a exploration into that idea. So we see they're dropping off the package, and there's nothing too much to it. That's just that. And then here we have them talking about how they are going to decide to stay in this town and help it against the Goatmen for a bit. And so we wait until nightfall. We have this nice creepy fog and moonlight. Taria raiding her gun, Sarah Virgin stationed up on the roof, and Aurora making deal with a weapon. She has a problem with breaking weapons, so a big stick with some nails in it. Let's see how well that does. We get that from her pocket. That out of a good sound. So with that, So we hear the Goatman, we hear the fighting, and Aurora's running, and Goatman jumps over the wall at her. So kind of an idea was the wall really doesn't provide much of an obstacle for Goatman because they got the big, kind of the springy legs and climbing abilities, much like mountain goats. So they're able to get over it quite easy. So we see it pop up over and drop down on attempting to stand her, and her immediately breaking her weapon as she whacks it in the head, doing it in. So yeah, that weapon didn't last long. So let's talk a little bit about the Goatman for a second. So the Goatmen, kind of the design, was heavily influenced by the Kazurak from Diablo, and I think possibly just general mythology. I'm not sure where Kazuraks come from, but it was to create a enemy that could be dangerous to Feuer, and kind of the opposite of him, where Feuer are these proud, strong warriors, then the Goatmen would be as now strong, savage warriors. And so a lot of their, I guess you could say, weaponry and armor is just kind of a hodgepodge of different stuff mixed together with some things, kind of like we could see up here in the back, that would be considered trophies or whatnot, or some type of display that only really they understand. So we see that going on here in our first Goatman. And so now we come out here to the fight where we see the some Feuers fighting against the Goatmen, and this is a chance to kind of, well, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. So got some goats jumping, and we have Sarah Verge, who's also got little socks on his feet now, leaping off a roof to intercept a Goatman in the air, and quickly does another one in with a gun. And we can see what's just a variety in their armors and displays and such. But yeah, so now that being said, take a moment to explain some stuff with this panel here. We can see here that these are not Feuer soldiers, or currently active ones. They're old guys. They're retired. Their armor is, they're missing armor pieces, such as like the shoulders and the helmet here, because stuff doesn't fit quite right anymore, or they can't carry it anymore because it's too heavy, or their eyesight's maybe too bad to see out through it. And so this kind of ties into, once again, that a lot of the civilian side of Feuer, since we're now in an active war zone, we don't see a lot of young men. What we see are women and children and old men that were too old to go out and fight. And so this is all that's really left to help try and curtail the Goatmen, is a bunch of these old former soldiers. Which, yeah, they're going to fight, it's what they do. But they don't quite have the energy of youth that they once did. And so that's just kind of leaning into that reflection of how large-scale warfare affects the civilian side of life. So we get a good shot of Taria figuring out more about her fighting. As now she has designed her gun with the first, I guess, call it not internal magazine, attached magazine. So she's able to quickly fire and cycle. I'm still having to cycle the chamber here and eject rounds manually. But this allows her to shoot quicker and put more rounds down range, so that way she doesn't have to get in close. Which she calls the Goatman shags, kind of referring to their shaggy, messy fur. This would also be the slur for Karin of shags, basically referring to messy, unkept fur, which would be insulting. So that's kind of what's up with that. And some little fun details. And I mean, I just like these series of panels about the gun just shooting, getting different glorious angles of it. So we come here, Aurora's grabbed that spear from the one she killed, stabs through another one, gets headbutted, her arm hurt, and so she's down. So, what's she going to do? I mean, she could just pop off her powers and be great, but she's surrounded by a bunch of civilians or witnesses, people that would see that. So, what's she going to do? She has to fight handicapped here. And she gets covered by this old guy. Managed to get her with a sword, and he's getting her pulled back. We see that her that her arm's broken from that impact. This is just to kind of lean into that getting headbutted by a Goatman isn't just something you can walk off. It can be very bad because they're hitting you with a lot of force. And so we can see that they can deliver enough force to break bone with a headbutt. So, which is, making the Goatman seem more dangerous. Got this Tarn using this Goatman's horns against it, so he can hold it while he stabs. And so, just some messy, nasty fighting going on here. And so, we have Aurora pondering on the people of Feuer, kind of what they're like, about how they, let's now, already had dug graves because they knew people were going to die in this battle so that they could put them in. They were disposing of bodies, listen now, because that was going to have to be done. And then they got ready to do it all again the next night. It just kind of, that's just how Feuer, I guess you could say, lives, that they accept their mortality and the likelihood of death in battle, and likewise accept the consequences of after battle, such as needing to clean up different stuff. And so we see that mindset and stuff having happened, just kind of their experiences. So just a nice little insight into stuff. So it's daytime. They move out of the way from town. Aurora fixes up her arm. Listen now. And we find out that Sarah Verge had tracked them in the night so that they know that they're hidden. Aurora gears herself up, and now it's time to get a little revenge on the Goatmen, who are sleeping the day away. So we can see kind of the difference of how they handle their raiding parties. They'll just, after a raid, they just go out and fall asleep in places, under the trees and such. Wake up from Tyria, Aurora and Sarah Verge. This now as I guess it's just that nice big explosion. It's going to wake up a lot of the people, and so the Goatmen get ready for an unfair fight this time. You see, it didn't last long. I had thought about at this point on making a longer fight panel, but decided, we already had a good fight on this chapter. We don't need another one. Let's just make it quick and show just how lopsided it really is when Aurora is able to use her powers. And we see that she didn't even have to go to phase 2. That she's able to stick with phase 1 and conserve her energy and just get rid of the Goatman that way. That they really didn't stand much of a chance. And so we have nighttime. Aurora still trying to figure out what's now about her powers and things and kind of what she should be doing. Once again, I'm kind of leaning more into her making decisions and such to drive the story. And we get this little cutaway of kind of back in the town what's happening. We see Sarah Verge was right, it was cookies. We see the Feuer people, the old guys of the town trying to defend it. I'm a little confused as to where the Goatmen are. They're raiding, but there's no Goatmen. And this is a little detail here. In the cookies, we see a condolence letter. Let's now to who that was in this package, and we can see that that basically make reference to referring to this person that I still consider you my daughter. And so kind of what we can get from just this little implied storytelling is that this package was a condolence messaging offering from the mother-in-law of this lady, who was sorry, who she had lost her son, but she recognized that her daughter-in-law had lost her husband. And so just kind of reaching out that even though she was hurting in her own way, she recognized someone else's suffering and decided to reach out and help them. And so just a little bit of, I guess, unexplained implications of, we might be going through hard times ourselves, but so are other people, and maybe we should consider what we can do to help them. So a little bit of that. And so we find out here that Aurora was talking to Tyria, or was she? As Tyria is off to have more wild dreams. And basically, yep, Aurora's been dreaming and talking with a wild Tyria. So, and this story, I guess, those pondering on a bit of a humor stretch. So yeah, so that's kind of what's up with that. The Great Bull Hunt. So this was a title page where I decided to give a little bit better, more obscure clues as to what's going on. Because what would a bull... So when you have Tarns, what would a bull be? Wouldn't that just be a male Tarn? So what are they hunting with this bull? What are they going to be hunting? So we got like fur, a nice little splash, blood mark in the fur here. And so, kind of I guess a fun little thing. The lettering is perhaps a little hard to read with the black. But, learning steps. The real fun thing here was this footprint where we see Aurora's reflection in the water that's pulled up in the footprint. And we could kind of see that we got the 3 large fingers here with a thumb-like thing down here, and these 2 odd protrusions up above it. So that's just to kind of give a clue as to what they might be hunting. And a clue that no one can solve because, there's no real way to look at the answer, but stuff that we could infer from it. So it was fun. So we have them getting thrown out or driven out because they got a blueberry with them. How a lot of people aren't really in, a lot of these Feuer civilians aren't really in the real kind and understanding mood now because of the wars and such, so they're less tolerant of a troll like Sarah Verge kind of being in the group. This is to kind of create a bit of a contrast now in between Thousand Lands and Feuer, where Thousand Lands were, I guess you could say, a bit more accepting of Tyria and Sarah Verge. Feuer is not. And this kind of ties into what unifies the 3 different kingdoms, with Thousand Lands basically saying of the opinion that all life has inherent value, and so we're going to be respectful of that to a more greater extent. To Feuer saying that we respect our neighbors and such and unify together. And so they're less accepting of Sarah Verge because he's not their neighbor. He's from Thousand Lands, not Feuer. So there's some rough, I guess you could say, understanding and a inability to connect on that part. The final grouping with Allmeyer is they see unity of thought. So people that agree with their ideas and think the same way they do. Those are people who have value. And we kind of saw that earlier on in Thousand Lands with why Allmeyer is trying to invade. Yeah, so trying to create everyone with a unifying thought so that way everyone will get along. So that's kind of how that, we see kind of those things being reflected here in their travels. And we come down here to this person, listen now, who initially refers to Sarah Verge as a blueberry, but then corrects herself as troll. So we kind of find out who this person is, that she's a beastmaster and is looking for help in trying to catch some animals for the honor arena. And kind of that, we see again with this reflection that a lot of the men, but yeah, a lot of the young men being out fighting the war, she needs help to still catch animals and stuff. And there's not a whole lot of that going around. So we see just kind of an explanation about who she is and what she's doing, and kind of and why she needs help. And kind of the Feuer perspective on battle a little bit. So we cut away more to this, kind of explaining what warfare looks like in between Feuer and Allmeyer. And we see that, but for one, we get another rare sight of a Feuer shield here. Yeah, small detail. A lot later on in the story, I dropped the Feuer shields in general because they just didn't make a whole lot of sense when you're wearing this big plated armor. Not a whole lot's going to get through that, so you really don't need a shield for a lot of stuff. So that's just kind of why those disappeared in large regards. But we see kind of how their fighting works. That basically the Allmeyer will set up a firing line with some barricades and stuff to help protect them. And then just open fire as Feuer tries to push up on them. And here we do see something that will remain these Feuer shields, kind of these big wall shields that are intended to soak up gunfire while they advance. So these shields would remain, but the smaller ones would go away. So just kind of a fun little detail about how the fighting has changed in there and such. Ideally, just kind of for the record of how these fights would go, is Allmeyer would want to station themselves up on a hill, so that way they could try and fire down over the Feuer shields as they advance. And likewise, but depending on where they set up on the steepness of the hill, they can even have people firing over this main line at the advancing Feuer. So yeah, just some fun little details about how warfare in between them goes. And we have just kind of the cost of the wars and such, and how that they, just kind of the Feuer perspective of getting shot and injured from afar and never getting really to prove themselves in the honorable battle, and how hard that could be on them. And we get kind of a shot of kind of what a Feuer grave is. Now, we will see more of these later on in the bigger part of the story, so I'll explain more about that then, because it'll probably tie in better with that chapter. But yeah, so we get a first sight of what does a Feuer grave properly looks like. And so we got Aurora and this person talking. I forgot what they called her. But oh well. And so they're trying to decide if they want to help her or not. And that basically, helping her will advance their own goal of getting into the Feuer capital. We've seen that they have a hard time, or that they've had a hard time getting into inns and stuff just on the outside of the capital and in these smaller towns and stuff. So it's going to be really hard to try and get into the capital of Sarabergi on their own. And so helping her helps them reach the goal. And so that's why they're going to do it. And so we kind of see that. And then we get the big question of what's a Ural is. So we see that they didn't find a place. They had to camp outside the walls. And we get kind of an insight into Tyria and how she, despite being born in, she's born into Feuer, had a interesting in how stuff works. She's just very mechanically minded. And this led into, and this compounded with her small size, led into basically a developing furthermore to that mechanical mindset that she can develop tools to help make up for her lack of size. And she says, if people carry lumber, I used a cart. So she made tools to help produce stuff. That's when she saw the Allmeyer weaponry of the gun and realized that she didn't have to be big or strong to fight. That with the gun, it would allow her to fight despite her small size. And so this kind of put her into conflict with her family and their traditions of Feuer and such, that she didn't, not to make her sound like a violent person, but she wanted to be able to, she understood the value of being able to help and to fight. She saw that, but she couldn't do that unless she used Allmeyer technology. And so we see just kind of the conflict of, I say the conflict, but the odds of her respecting and wanting to be part of one tradition of Feuer, but realizing the only way she can do that is to break another tradition and pick up Allmeyer technology. And so we see just kind of that conflict within her, I said within her personality, but her character. And it's one that I like quite a bit. I would say not so much an easy answer, but the conflict of, you want to do good, so you have to do something bad, and kind of the mess that can make of situations. But yeah, so that's just kind of how that whole thing has worked out. I'd say just kind of a fun aspect of her character. So we get sunrise, and they're off to begin their hunts. It's now got this person, the Beastmaster, giving them some some talisman with some tags that will allow them entry into places, and raiding the spears, and off hunting they go. So we got them kind of walking through the woods, some downhills across some streams, through some more trees, and just nice stuff of nature. And we have Sarah Gertrude finding a footprint. And so we got our footprint from the title page. That this is kind of what they look like, and we get a better idea of their actual size compared to Sarah Gertrude's foot, or how big this footprint is. And so, they're moving in, keeping quiet. She's handing out poison spears with a sleep toxin. So the idea is, how would Feuer, I have the question, how would Feuer hunt like a monster or something like that? Because, they're not going to shoot it with arrows or something, because that would be dishonorable. And so they use poison sticks. So that way they don't have to kill it. They can just poke it a whole bunch to get the toxin in and make it fall asleep. And so that's kind of what we see going on here. And as they move in through the brush, we find the Urals. And so here we kind of get, just kind of a brief shot into the general Ural life, I guess, pack or whatnot. We see that they bear a lot of similarities to gorillas, that they carry their youngs on the back. Young ones like to play in the waters. We can see kind of way off from a distance here these little barbs on the forearms, and them just kind of laying in the grass and watching the young and stuff, which is kind of being, I guess you could say, very relaxed, and just kind of doing pack stuff. And they're looking for the bull. And so there's a larger one with 3 horns and longer claws. And so we can see, looking at here, judging from that these claws probably not long enough to leave impacts in the ground. It's hard to see. And they only have the 2 horns. So these are all females. And these are children that haven't yet matured. So we don't know what gender they are, but that's just that. Can move on. And what do you do? Bull run up and start poking it. And we haven't seen this since Absolution, something rising up out of the water. And we can see that it's already got a horn, so this is probably the bull. And this just confirms it. This big thing with 3 horns. So we got horn up here, these ones here. Longer, I said longer fur, but some nice long, messy fur. So I like them. I like the Ural design. The urinal. No, I like the Ural's design. It was an idea for a monster that I had way back from when I was a kid, like probably in the 5th grade or so. Just kind of like a big, hairy gorilla-like thing with tusks and such. So we get a big humor. Yep, they found the bull. So, they run out and start poking it, and so we can see it, run away from it, as it starts trashing through the bushes and stuff at them. And we can see that it has the longer wrist claws that were leaving the holes in the ground, and as it tears through the bushes. I do like this motion blur on the leaves up here. It makes it look like it's just flying through them. And we got the longer tail. I forgot to talk about that. There's not much to it, just to make it seem less like a gorilla. I gave the Urals longer tails. Sarah Verge, he's doing his job. He's poking it in the flank. It's taking swings at him. He doesn't like that at all. We got it doing a nice kind of gorilla there's now overhead smash going on here, and spit flying out. It's mad. It's angry. And we got Aurora tackling it to save Sarah Verge, so knocking it off balance using her super strength that she has to be able to hit a Ural hard enough to knock it over. So, crushes some bushes. A lot of nice brushwork in here. I like in this chapter. It's coming out very well. Sarah J, making sure keeping your head in the game, gotta move. As it lays down and just sweeps its arm across the brush, as we can see ripping up all the brush, clearing the ground, and likely really hurting if you got hit by that. Gets a handful of the brush to throw. It's just going absolutely ape. See its tail is puffed and its hair is all puffed up and flared to make itself look bigger. So yeah, fun. Throwing chunks and stuff of dirt and brush at Aurora and everyone. Trying to get them away when something hits its face. See that this person threw a rock to get its attention. Poor Tyria's like, why would you do that? I don't want it closer. To which it immediately goes charging at them. And we get a shot here of its rear legs, and we see that they have gosh, I forgot what it's called on monkeys, but kind of the hand-like feet of other apes and such. And some of that just further creature detail into it, kind of giving some indications of it. But I do know this one. It does have a plantigrade foot and leg structure. So I do know that term. So that means it's got legs kind of like a human does or whatnot, with the knee that bends forward and that. So it goes charging at them. It's mad. Taria's trying to get away as it comes galloping at her. See it just going crazy. This thing it was kind of fun to draw, just coming up with different ways to show just how irate this thing is. So we got like the black speed streaks here and just a spit flying out as it just absolutely keeps losing it. This thing is fun. I like this thing. I might have to bring it back at some other time. Daria jumps behind some rocks to try and get some cover as it comes flying at her and stabs up at it. Not going to do too much. She hit it in the chest, but that's just continuing to make it mad as it bares its fangs and grabs her and starts swinging her around. Sarah Roja, he's not having that now. He's not having Daria get taken out, so he ditches the spear and draws the guns on it and just starts blasting away at it. So we get the nice little panels to show how quickly Sarah Roja can fire. So 4 rounds here as he just pulls the trigger, unloading into it. Drops one gun and pops the casing out before slamming in 2 more rounds and firing that gun there. So we can see that quite quickly he's able to fire off 6 rounds in a pretty quick time frame. So we have Taria, listen now, landing in the bush. She's been messed up quite a bit. Ira, that's her name. That's what I called the Beastmaster, Ira. So she's kind of wondering what happened to her, and Sarah J, he's loading up again. He's ready to finish off this Ural after the fighting, and Ira's telling him not to kill it. And he looks very grumpy. He's like, why should I kill this, and why shouldn't I kill you? So he's grumpy. And she's trying to talk him down. That's not going to do much, but Aurora's there to calm Sarah Verge down. That Taria's fine. She's just been roughed up. You get kind of this nice Tyria being dizzy and worn out from the healing of Aurora. I suppose this might really only be the second time that she's gone through healing I could think of with Aurora. So she does a pretty good job at not getting hurt. Oh my gosh, I think the first time she was healed was back in Night Marchers. Night Marchers? I think I forgot what I called that chapter. I can't think of another time that she's been hurt since then. So yeah, she does a pretty good job. Sarah J glares. I got some nice little change here with the eye reflection kind of starting to lean more in for the aggressive eye glare, making it flatter so it looks a little angrier, and he decided, all right, it's done. So that's kind of that. So Taria's been pretty dizzy from that, and so she's doing better. Let's find out that Sarah Verjay was considering doing Ira in, and Tyrese like, Aurora's like, well, glad don't do that. Murdering isn't good. Just, kind of tying into how he handled Dinter. That Aurora, she's not a particular fan of killing, but doesn't want needless murder and destruction. And so killing Ira would have been needless there, and she kind of questions still if killing Dinter was the proper way to handle it. And I find that Sarah Verjay is upset that something isn't sitting right. And when we see that Taria is happy that he was so worried about her, and that his concern for her would push him to the edge. So, maybe her charm's working on him. He's starting to like her more. So, yeah. So we come here with Tyria, just kind of sitting there looking sad at the night. Sarah Verjay checking up on her. And, them just kind of talking and kind of Sarah Verjay talking less now about how, just how to put it, trying to, I guess, make an attempt to not so much bridge the gap between him and Tyria, but to understand better what's going on in between him and Tyria, and that basically he admires and thinks that she's brave and kind of respects her courage. This tying more into earlier in the chapter how Tyria was feeling bad about how she couldn't fight and stuff because she was small. And saying, you're brave and that you're still going to do hard stuff, and that takes courage, and that you respect it. So you see that she likes that quite a bit, and is quite embarrassed. Got a nice blush going on, and the tail kind of flickering back and forth. So yeah, just I think a really cute page overall. And so yeah, I really like this one. Alright, enter the ring. So this is going to be a big chapter here. This also marks the point in time in which, for some reason, all Taurans grew a fourth finger or third finger, depending on how you count, as we see right here. I like this title page. I like the lettering on it, the torch lights within it, and this big light reflection off the bracer. So, yeah, we'll get to see, I guess, get into this monster of a story. So, of course, got them waking up. I'm just getting ready to, let's now head into the city. We can see here kind of the transport going on. We got this big woolly rhinoceros thing with the Ural in the cage. Sarah Verjay back there being grumpy, and Ira being grumpy back. Just some talking and chatting going on. And Aurora still being skeptical about her. So, tell them to kind of pick up the pace, and we get our first look at the second real capital city that I've drawn here. And it's wedged into kind of this massive crevice in the mountain. Now, I like this, once again, I like this place. Just as with the Thousand-Land capital, how it was kind of built up on the side of the kind of mountain island. This one is built into the wall of this big cave here. And so we can see just some details looking out here. Just to get a rough size of it, we got some small houses and roads leading up to the capital. Massive towers that, I call them towers, but they're like built into these rocks. to help hold them up. Just loaded with siege equipment in the event of a invasion. Now, while I never really did get to explain this does kind of tie into that in the event of siege warfare, that Feuer will use like catapults and different stuff, but only if their enemy is using it as well. So if Almar were to show up and not use the cannons, but rush them with ladders and swords, then these would never even be touched. So that's kind of how that works. Some other fun details we can see: got the ground floor down here of housing, and then it's just kind of like, I would say, not so much terrace like we saw with the Thousand Lands, but less now. Just the different levels of it as it builds all the way up to the surface of the rocks here. Got some bridges going across the way here for crossing from one side to the other, making that easier at the higher levels in this big old, again, kind of a tower thing. But once again, it's actually attached to the rock here in the background. I'm going all the way up, basically to the top. And we'll see this later, but that's actually kind of the castle, the main place of Feuer, where the king would sit. And so we could actually see that from here. So I like it. I mean, like I said back when we were talking about the Thousand Land place, I like big kind of monument cities. I think they're just really fun and interesting. This now. And sorry, getting everyone to move before the Ural wakes up. And so we come here and we get it's kind of a bit of a view of just how massive this place is. And we can see kind of some of the nicer Feuer homes built down here, which I think I actually called these dwarven homes. And so we can see that they got nice little gardens up on the over, kind of hanging up over the doorway and are very square-like. And kind of one fun thing about drawing the inside of this place is all these backgrounds was just taking kind of a scatter brush and applying a scattering in here just to indicate buildings that are going up this side of built into the sides of this crevice or whatever canyon-like place. And see them moving into the arena. Let me see. Do we see the arena back here? We do not. So I forgot to draw the arena in here. It's not visible, at least. But yeah, so them moving further in, and we get into the arena, and we see a bit of fighting going on. So now the fun thing with the arena fight was to just kind of, I guess you could say, throw out sensible fighting design for armors and weapons and just go with fun, stylish stuff. So we see this guy here fighting with two shields. And we get some kind of, some brief glimpses over who this is. Of course, we can see like the missing horn, the scars here. And so she squares back up again for a fight. Let me see now if anyone called it out. Nope, nothing. So no one's called out on who this is yet. At this point in the story, just trying to obscure her face. We got here. Aurora meeting with the arena master, and he just kind of explains what's going on and the different types of events they have here, as well as being a little upset that she brought a Ural. Which will tie into kind of later in the story. But yeah, they didn't want the Ural, but she brought one anyways. So we come here and we see the fight going, or coming to an end, and we see that the winner is Jungler, or actually it's Xura. She's back, so this marks the second chapter that Xura is in, and her return. So we're going to get to continue her story from the Madlands stuff, the Shadow and the Sun chapter. So this is the continuation of that. After her adventure there, she went and traveled deeper into Feuer and wound up here at the Capitol. And I suppose actually a detail I forgot to point out right here is we can see a giant throne here in the background, which would make more sense coming up later. But that's just a small little detail of hints of different stuff coming up. And so we see that, they're good sports about it. Listen now. Just chanting the, say the armory. Let's see now. And we see Aurora getting grumpy, mad at Exura, just ignoring this guy here. And Exura is a little scared about what Aurora is going to do because the grounds that they parted on, Exura had ran away to avoid judgment from. Exura ran away from Aurora to avoid her judgment. So now they're face to face again, so we're going to see what happens. So we got Aurora mad and angry with Exura, some yelling. Alright, so this is kind of funny. Since Exura has the same face structure as Aurora, I'm basically drawing Aurora with two different emotion states right here. I'm scared and gradually being slid up against this wall. And Aurora absolutely furious. So that's just kind of a fun little thing to look up that I'm basically drawing her twice. Listen now, and so Aurora just kind of tells Exura off and then leaves. So yeah, that was nice. And so Tyria's getting caught up again, or a refresher on who Exura is. And so, just kind of explaining a bit of refresher for the audience who, probably didn't read the other parts of the Gratz comics and such. So we kind of see that going on there. And Exura and Sarah Verde recognizing that Aurora's going to be having a hard time with that. That Aurora has a hard time with Exura. And so we see that going on here. And so we got... Listen now, trying to move on with the plan, and Aurora's trying on some different armor. Let's see now, kind of make a bit of a joke here. As a fighter, not a skank in this tying into. She's given assistance from Tyria, good old trusty Tyria about what to wear and different stuff like that. And so... We get a bit of a joke here that even though Sarah Verde can't help, and Tyria knows that, she wants her spirits lifted by looking at him and trying on some stuff. And so Tyria up to her games. She's, like I said, she's been a fun character to have around. Just how she can play off Aurora and Sarah Verde in two very different ways. So it's fun. Coming here, they're looking at the weapons, trying to decide what to use. And funny detail here, when I did the title page, I was originally going to have her use a spear like this. But I ended up dropping that idea. So that's just kind of a interesting nod of something that, interesting nod to something that doesn't matter, that originally that was drawn with a spear and it ended up not being the weapon. So that's just a little interesting behind the detail thing here. And we find out that Exura has managed to make a friend in this old orc guy. And he's basically, so Aurora threatens Exura, and now the old orc guy threatens Aurora. And so we're kind of seeing a bit of, how to describe, that, I guess just kind of that different perspective that, other people see Exura differently than how Aurora does. And kind of that clash of perspectives and things like that. So it's a slight change that, Aurora is kind of being faced as possibly being the bad guy in this situation. So yeah, that's just kind of that. let's see now, and let's not have the old guy talking to Ira that he doesn't like Aurora. Um, let's see now. Let me see them. Let's now. Okay. Still trying to pick some stuff and deciding to go with this weapon here, which we haven't seen yet. So a nice little tease of it, a bit of a overkill weapon. And we come here, still not really getting to see the weapon, and we find out that Aurora's passed the training. Us now, it's getting ready for her match. Kind of at this time, I suppose in the background we see me playing with distance blurring for like these towers further in the back in the buildings and such. So that's just a little interesting detail. I don't know how much I really keep that up, but yeah, that's something that we see Aurora. Let's now get in. We see Aurora witnessing Exura. Being nice with the kids. Kids liking her and celebrating her, and Aurora kind of thinking about kind of how does this all work? Not how this all works, but dealing with this different side of Exura that other people seem to see, but she can't. And so she's just thinking about that, being grumpy, and just a bit of visual storytelling going on here that we see as Aurora's thinking about it, half in the light, half in the shadow, until she kind of takes a turn down into the shadow. I guess turns down into the shadow, walking this way, and kind of her, I guess, indication of just how grumpy and angry she's being and such. So just a bit of visual storytelling with that. Obvious shading is obvious. So that and more fun stuff we see with just kind of the city in the background. And the shading I think has been really fun to do because since it's like built into a crevice of this mountain or whatnot, you could get some really extreme shadows throughout the day in there. So yeah, this is just fun. I'm liking this city. I think this is probably the first time we have, I'd say extensive time in a major city. We can certainly see me making uses of the houses here, the copy and paste files for them, which, at least all the houses looking the same, but it allows me to build a street pretty reliably. So it is what it is, I guess. So we come here, Aurora fixing the breastplate, gotta make sure that stays in position. I'm getting ready for her match debut, and we have the Golden Maiden tying into golden hair, eyes, and of course the armor, and we finally get to see the weapon. I like this weapon design. Kind of like a big crystal caged in with some golden bands there. I like it. I'm really glad I didn't stick with the spear and instead went with this. And so we get her match, the Leaping Jade, and they get ready to fight. We can see that the pit is sandy, so I get to try and practice more making sand. And that's kind of how that's going. I think this has been a really fun chapter, just coming up with all the different designs for the fighters and such, and the city. I really have been enjoying this chapter. And here we get a fun little detail, where in out of all three of the kingdoms, Feuer actually has the largest mixing of races or mixed race people. And so kind of how that works is the race of the child will always be the same race as the mother. However, they'll lack some key characteristics of that race because they don't have a full genome of that same race. With a few exceptions, the exception to this rule is orc children will always have red eyes. And so we can actually take a look here at Leaping Jade and judge that she has a dwarf mom and an orc father because she is obviously a dwarf, but her eyes are red, which is not a dwarven characteristic. So we can infer that just by looking at her. So that's just kind of a fun little play on playing with that aspect of the Feuer culture and how you can learn some stuff from people by looking at them. So yeah, so that's just kind of a fun little detail. And I got this nice big old horn sounding to mark the match, start the match. So now got a bit of a fight. Jade sliding around, being real fast, avoiding Aurora's hammer, and just immediately takes the wind out of her. Aurora not really out of her league. She is not a good fighter without her powers, so this is going to be really tough for her. It's quite a nice winded-looking face. And so, see, the fight goes on. Aurora's trying to block, getting tired. And Leaping Jane living up to her name as she just springs around the place. Springing off of sand, that's got to be really hard. She can move pretty quick on sand. This now. Kind of got running up, Aurora getting ready, and a nice pole vault into the face, and Aurora just absolutely gets I'll say hammered, but Aurora's one with the hammer. She takes that kick to the face and is down. And so that did not go according to plan. So we see Aurora sitting in the recovery area, nursing up her head, being a little grumpy as they just talk about kind of what's going on. And Daria explains kind of how we get a nice, it's like an explanation from Daria into how the Feuer honor system works. That the dwarf was smaller than the Tarn, but they both had weapons and the dwarf won. So kind of how that situation works. Yeah, man, I'm still liking the show. I'm just looking at the different facial expressions I'm going with, and yeah, it's just fun. I'm liking this stuff now. I'm really seeing more of my current style pop up in it, with the stronger colors, the 3 fingers, and the strong facial expressions. And Taria, I'm really coming into her own as a bit of a jokester. So yeah, just occasionally get lost in my own work and have fun. So we have Xura trying to talk with Aurora, and Aurora just being grumpy and not really wanting help from Xura. But Xura, she knows Aurora's is out trying to do some good, and she in many regards still feels like how to put it, a sense of lack of self-worth, that she knows she did a lot that really hurt Aurora, and that she's really kind of I guess left incomplete with that experience. That's just part of her life that has been unresolved, and we kind of see her trying to overcome her own fears and talk with Aurora and try and get some closure with what's this going to mean. And so this is kind of time. And so we just see her story continue, and that, but also we get to see a different side of Aurora about is she going to be able to rise to the occasion and forgive Xura? We don't typically get to see Aurora very hateful or mean towards anyone. I mean, she gets upset, but never overly nasty. But she's really struggling with Xura when it comes to Xura. So we just kind of get to see this different side of Aurora in this story too. So we see Aurora talking with Ira about how the fight went and trying to get some stuff, and Ira is saying, that you need to quit holding back. You need to try harder and show everyone what you can do, and that there's a lot to you. And so we have another match with Aurora going up against what I call Mr. Wall. It's just this guy with this massive shield that he drags around and uses this Triton to poke around with and trying to get the other fighters. And so we see up here Tyree and Sarah Verge watching, and Sarah Verge kind of breaks down the fight. He's able to observe it. That Mr. Wall can't really move the wall that around that much, but he pivots it on the base of the ground. And so really, he fights in a very defensive manner, as you really only can with a shield that big. And so Aurora could, if she could get past the shield, with some maneuverability or force him to force him to move, she could win. But she lacks the experience to understand that and fight. He kind of points out that because she can't use her powers, she's going to struggle. Or can she? So we see Aurora start to power up her hammer, something we haven't seen her do since Absolution empower a weapon. So we start to see that going on. And I like this angle here. We got the hammer back here with a bit of a bend. Well, I'll say kind of a bend, but a bit of a extreme angle on the pole here as Aurora, on the handle as Aurora gets ready to swing it into the shield here. I just like this picture. I think it's very dynamic and fun. Sarah Verge sees that something's going on and that Aurora's about to do something reckless, and so he wings his bottle from way up there and smashes it on the hammer, and thus bringing an end to the fight. Because there's been a disruption in it. So you do not disrupt the fight. And of course, Aurora knows who throws that, who could throw a bottle that far. Who else? It's going to be Sarah Verge. So she's angry, but then Sarah Verge is mad at her, and so they get into a bit of a shouting match with each other. And Sarah Verge is basically there to tell her to get her act together, which is very unusual. Normally, Sarah Verge is worried about Aurora getting too invested. In this case, he's almost saying that you're invested in the wrong things. Get your head in the game. Maybe get invested in the mission a little bit this time, a little bit more. So we just kind of see this tension coming up in between them. And we come to Aurora being grumpy at night, trying to decide what she's going to do about Xura, and that she could be fine on her own. And just continuing circling back to the question of why did Xura have to survive? What was the whole point of that? And so we cut here to in the training room, Xura preparing for a fight, and as we can see, it involves cutting eggs or breaking eggs without damaging the target. So that way, demonstrating that you have control of your weaponry. And Aurora comes in, bit of I guess, just kind of look at each other. Aurora tries to leave it. Xura, she doesn't want her to go. She wants this. So she wants this resolved, and she's finally willing to, I guess, force the issue or face it down. And so, Xura is basically trying to face her fears and plead for a answer as to her predicament about what she's going to do. She's had to live with this guilt of her action, and she wants a way to understand it. I think would be again a good way to describe it. So you got them looking in just kind of a moment of pride, and Aurora goes to explain that she received an answer about what she was supposed to do and a warning. And so we come here and we see Aurora's dream from the night before. A statue of herself is now dirty and broken, and then that's now made clean and they're shining in a reflective light. And we got it's made of gold. We got nice reflections on it, and this good old Bible verse, I think it is, says, "I will forgive whom I will forgive, but to you it is required to forgive all." And then Aurora looks up and sees that the statue is no longer of Aurora, but of Xura, basically saying that you were broken and dirty, too, but I forgave you and made you clean. And now I have done the same for Exura, and so you should do the same. And so you should be accepting of that. And you see here that that Aurora asks Exura for forgiveness. That Aurora realizes she has been wrong. She's been a terrible person, and it is her that it's not Exura that has done wrong, but Aurora. And so she wants to that forgiveness, and Exura gives it. So we get a long way towards resolving these issues, and through that, Aurora, Exura kind of explains to Aurora how the fighting works, and how to put on a good show, what's to be expected, and different things like that. Or some different elements to it, and we kind of find that the answer really comes down to that Aurora doesn't have to use her powers to put on a good show, nor does she have to be the most proficient fighter. What she needs to be is basically memorable and be able to win. So in doing that, and so it takes what seemed like a hugely complicated issue and it simplified it by saying that no, you can basically get out of your own head about worrying about it so much, and you'll be able to do fine. And so, listen now. So we see kind of just further that explaining on, and kind of Exura explaining with the weapons that blades and blunt weapons have different qualifications over what can end a fight. So we just get some explanations with that. And like I said, I mean, it's just not told much more that basically Exura is going to help Aurora practice so that she can get on with her mission. And so, just because I guess tying just more into that, because Aurora was able to grow and overcome her anger and forgive Exura, now Aurora, with Exura's help, can finish her mission. And so we see just kind of, I guess, that nice aspect of storytelling about how personal growth can help you. And so we see that they've been practicing and working hard, and everything is going to go well. Tyria being good, doing her joke and stuff about a better costume. And Sarah J doing some thinking on something. Oh boy. Sometimes my sense of humor. Aurora messing more with her costume, trying to get it to fit. And then goes out and gets ready for the show. And so we have in this event I guess you could say a special fight that the King of King of Feuer is going to show up for, and this is where we get kind of the big reveal, but stuff that we've seen hints to as to why there's such big gates and the big throne and stuff here about what's going on. And we see that the King of Feuer is a giant, and so this was changed from early. I think, like I said early on when I started Spirit of Adventure, is originally there were going to be Vicruels in Feuer, but after playing Dark Souls 3 and seeing Yorm the Giant, that had a lot of influence over me, and so I changed the king to being a giant, and so we see that, of course, Aurora is surprised by this. But yeah, so that's just kind of that situation. About doesn't really contribute too much, but does kind of address some things I'll explain later on, like why is the king not out fighting? Why is he sitting back in the capital? It ties into. I don't know if I've explained it here or not, but it ties into that because he's so large and powerful, it would not be an honorable fight for him to take to the battlefield, typically speaking. And so we see that here. So we got some talking, and we get just another size comparison just to better understand just that this is a giant. We see an orc only really comes up to his knee. the matches are off. So Aurora comes out, and we see from her intro, we see that she takes the field now and does a bit more of a show, slamming the hammer down, dragging it across the ground and radiating it. It's kind of just hyping the crowd up, just selling this massive hammer, and getting it, put on a little bit of display with it. So we see that change from her intro. We get a rematch against Leaping Jade, to which Aurora just tanks the hit, uses her strength to catch the stick and not let it go. And then using her super strength, she's able to swing it and drop Jade on the ground this time. And Aurora was a good sport now, so she's not going to go too hard, so she just taps Jade on the head, ending the fight. Listen now. And they stand up and the crowd cheers as they celebrate. And we see Leaping Jade mention that her orc friend was right, that Aurora really can take a hit. And Aurora was a little confused by this. So, I wonder what that could mean. So we go and we get just kind of a montage of some other fights, just tying into just the fun I was able to have drawing different fighting characters. So we got this kind of, I don't know what to call it, Dark Soulsy kind of a guy with kind of a ironclad helmet and these two big axes. This ninja-looking thing, or orc jumping around with the two daggers. A guy here that tying again with visual storytelling, we can see that he took quite a bit of injuries from something, probably an explosion on this side of his body, and is missing his hand. So he's got kind of a spear and a shattered orc hand blade thing going on there. And somebody with a whip with a bell bearing, a ball on the end there. We don't see who's using that, but that's just kind of a detail. And we see that Aurora's made her way through all these fights and is gaining quite a favor with the crowd. And so everything's going good as Aurora's matches are continuing on. Fire goes out. Sarah Virgin looks on suspiciously as all the fires in the pit go out, and the pit is filled with this blackness. So we see in the pit this dark fog, and Aurora's trying to look around and see what's going on. And a big scaly monster comes out at her. She swings at it, and it kind of fades into the smoke. We see a shadow coming up behind her, and this orc gets her with an axe. And we can see that this orc here is freaking out. Something's not right. He looks terrified. Goes to bring this axe down on her. She's able to defend herself, heal herself up. As the orc comes in for another charge, we break away to what's going on here. That Sarah Verge, he's already on the move. He's got a plan happening. So he's stashed his weapons in the arena, hands off his guns to Tyria to use, and pulls out a way to clear out the arena. So that way Aurora will be free to function and use her powers. And so we cut in, we see that Aurora's really just having to try and hammer this guy to put him down. She looks around and sees something running through the fog. And uses her powers to cast away some of the fog with some light. I kind of like this effect as the fog just flees away from the light. And she gets the guy to get out of there. And we see up here in the crowd, something's wrong. More than normal. Well, I say something else is going on. And that there's a stinky smell coming out of the fire. And we see that Sarah Virge is pouring stink liquids into the torches around the place to flush the crowd out. So that's a way to get people out. Most people don't like stinky smells and will willingly leave an area if it's smelly. So we see this going on here. And so we get just a bit of exploration as to why Sarah Virge knows how to make this stuff. Basically, it comes down to that he found that chemical weapons such as peppers are a very useful tool for fighting stronger opponents than he can handle. So we got just a building off of that. So Aurora is able to get the orc guy out of the smog. Ira is there to help her and drag her along to get her out of there. see going up ahead. Cut away here to just some people. We get kind of an example going on here of people leaving the arena and stuff being cleared out. And Sarah Virgin starts putting the pieces together about what's going on here. About how is it that the beast hunter was unable to find tracks, never took a shot at the Ural, baited the Ural into attacking in the direction Daria was. Some other stuff in there. The beast hunter was never supposed to have get a Ural. She was supposed to get something smaller, not more dangerous. The dwarf mentioning the orc friend or the beast hunter Ira suggesting that Aurora could take a hit, and so to go strong to hit her harder and different stuff like that. And basically, as it all ties. And of course, listen now. And we find out that the old orc that has been hanging out with Xura, or that Xura has been hanging out with, is Ira's grandfather, but yet Ira acted like she didn't even know him. And so basically, Sarah Virge runs all these clues down together for us to point out that that it's been a trap this whole time. And so we come here and we see that trap is sprung as these claws pop up and out the ground and dig into Aurora. And we see they're holding her down, and as Ira uncovers her dagger that I think I forgot to point this out, but I think it's been in a few shots, this big dagger she has. And we see as the lights, based on some lights and change in her appearance, that she is Morphe. I don't know if I've said her name yet, but Morphe. The elf that can change into people that's been working with Ironjaw. And we see here it's now the old orc and Sarah Virgin running into each other. And we see that the old orc's got a sword. He doesn't got his two shields, he's got a sword. So he's out looking, so he's ready to fight. Listen now, both him and Sarah Virgin recognize that something bad is going on. And that someone's out to hurt their girls. So we see Tyria looking back and forth, just in kind of a bit of shock at this development. So Aurora gets ready to cut herself out, but then the old sage here shows his trap, right? That as Ironjaw comes through the portal here, that he captured Xura and basically has Aurora rigged up, so if she tries to cut loose, then Xura will take the hits, or take hits and get hurt. Now. And so the old sage kind of says that, yeah, he knows Aurora. She's not going to hurt other people. It's not in her nature. And so it looks like Aurora's captured until the old orc shows up, and with him will be Sarah Virge and Tyria. So we get this nice little fight breaks out. We see him trying to grab this rope, this energy string from Sting to use it, but his hands just go through it. Just kind of a bit of demonstration of what this energy string is. So we see that. We see Tyria using Sarah Virge's gun, but unlike Sarah Virge, she can't dual wield. She doesn't have the ambidextrity, so she just fires off one shot with it. Sarah Virge going in with the sword, and he tries to cut Aurora loose, but we see the damage that happens to these, and that as he cuts into the claw holding Aurora, cuts into Xura's arm. And so this is just kind of demonstrated about what would have happened. If we had tried Aurora go carving through those things, it would have sliced them Xura up. So that's just kind of for the readers and the things, so we can get a better sense of how this trap works. Table knock over. When you got a fight going, you immediately knock over a table and use it as cover. So we see that going on. We see the old sage. The old sage throwing out some of this dark fog with some skulls and monsters in it, and this kind of indicates to us that it was him. Further, that it was him that put out the lights in the arena, is responsible for that. Aurora popping her light to split and drive away the fog. Tyria is in danger of Ironjaw. We get the portal being used against Ironjaw as the orc just reaches through and pushes Ironjaw further through and slams his head into the table that Tyria was hiding behind. So a bit of fun adaptation going on there. The old orc takes a hit here from Sting. Sting starts dragging him across the ground. Tyria pops up and shoots Sting. And Sting is in danger now that he's in reach of a very angry orc. So we see here the sage doing some teleportation and evading getting hit by Tyria. It's now and basically listen to Sage activating some portals to drag people away and get them out of trouble or out of danger. So that was a fun little fight again. I like that fight. I mean, sorry if I'm just kind of explaining what's going on in the panel. I'm just really enjoying it. Although it looks like in this one I forgot to put the claws on Ironjaw's shoulders. So maybe that one too. Did I forget to do that this whole page? I might have. I might have forgotten to do that this whole little section. That's embarrassing. And so we see here that the old orc making a little rock mound for his granddaughter Ira. That he's just sad that she's gone. That she's gone now, just because of some evil people, and he hopes that she died well. And we see Sarah Verge coming to give a letter to Exura. He's not going with Aurora to meet with the king, so that way he won't be there to complicate things, and hopefully it'll go down smoother. So we see Exura reads this letter, and it's basically a full-on forgiveness from Aurora, that she doesn't know what's going to happen, so she wanted Exura to really have that full level of forgiveness, because if we remember, Exura forgave Aurora for being mean and stuff, but Aurora never actually fully forgave, never actually said that she forgave Exura. That was just kind of missing, and so we got that more extensively here at this moment. And so we see Exura crying and kind of all that going on, and that Exura is happy. I think this probably isn't the first time, but just her really smiling and being happy in this moment. So we cut here to what's going on. We see that we're now, looking outside of the little chasm. From way back up in the fortress, we can see the big city wall, just kind of a smudge back there. We got another rare, Feuer shield here as they go up, talk with the guard. And Tyria wishing Aurora good luck. So we got here as they enter kind of the main hallway. This assistant just kind of explaining kind of how this will work as she meets with the king, and going down this I guess bigger other hallway. Let's have to meet the king of Feuer as he sits on a massive throne in front of his even bigger fire. So this was just kind of fun. I like this character design. It's simple and fun. So that's kind of what we see there. And kind of one of the things we learned is that the Feuer king can't really speak necessarily. And so he communicates and rumbles, and there's a speaker or a translator that will translate for the king. And they kind of quiz it a bit about the shadow, and the king wants, the Feuer king, he's not exactly dumb, so he wants to know what's going on. Um, and so Aurora decides, just put all the cards on the table, tell the truth. She's here to try and get peace between Thousand Lands and Feuer, so that way they could work together to stop Allmeyer. And so there's no point in lying. And so Aurora kind of explains her situation and her ambitions and different stuff. And King's like, all right, well, show me your powers. And so Aurora, this kind of nice little pose as she pops her wings in a rather non-threatening gesture. The King's not too thrilled about that he views it as magic and the coward's tools and basically insults her. And so she challenges him to a duel. To basically, I guess you could say, in a sense, demonstrate her honor. I guess that's just it. Just to demonstrate her honor and what she's here for. That maybe he'll listen and respect her if she, after a fight. Small little problem here. I think I changed up my style a bit later, but this sword is really hard to see when it's up against Dwayne. So that's something I think I just changed later on, but I just take a note of that there. We get to see the King's Blade, this nice big, hefty looking chopper thing. A small little detail is this crevice. This crevice just cut out at the tip of it. It's actually meant for pinning people down or catching them. So if there's someone he doesn't want to kill, he could just pin them to the ground with this part of it. And so that's just a fun little detail there about his weaponry. That doesn't matter. You see here just the size of it as it clings out next to Aurora, who comes zipping up along the blade, put a nice gash in it. She zips up on it, kind of pops up in front of him, just in time to get backhanded by him. So he was ready for her. I suppose I'll take a moment to talk a little bit about the Feuer King. So like I said, he's a giant and kind of there's a whole, I guess, lore surrounding how the Feuer Giants and Kings works that I've never explained in Rats, and likely never will have the opportunity to do so. But kind of how Feuer works is the very top part of it in the mountain range, which we'll go to in a little bit of story here, is a very magically unstable part of the world. So it's lots of stuff shifts around and comes from there. The Goatman, for example, as we'll find out later, comes from this this unruly region. And another part, or someone else that comes from there, are actually the giants, or rather a giant. Going back into Feurer's history, the giant was the protector against the Goatman. So he would roam the regions of Feuer, driving the Goatman back. And in time, the people of Feuer came to see him as an avatar of the god of honor, as they called it, which would be Feurer's chief god. And so this giant, or say the giant that would come from the land, would begin to teach the people of Feuer how to fight with honor and such. And that way that they'll become strong and defend themselves against the Goatmen. And so kind of along with that, he gradually stopped solely being the one to protect them against the Goatmen and let them do the fighting themselves. Kind of like, I've taught you the training wheels. Now I'll let you ride without the training wheels. And so just gradually as time has gone on, his role in their society has become more and more diminished. And so he's been less directly hands-on involved with what Feuer does, and more involved and more of just kind of an overseer. He just watches it and makes sure everyone's behaving. So that's kind of how that works. And they detail that actually when it came up is that Feuer is led by a council of 6 leaders. Way back in Feuer history at one point in time, this would have been 2 from each race. Now it's just 6 in general, as they are more, they don't have quite the same racial divide among each other anymore. Now, the thing with the Giants is that they live a very long time. So this current Feuer King is not the same one that first protected the primitive Feuer people from the Goatmen. There have been many giants since that time. And so kind of what will happen is every few I say every few years, but every few centuries or decades, I'm not entirely sure the time span, but a new giant will come down from the kind of the changing mountains and wild landscapes and such, and which he'll then travel to the capital Feuer, enter the city, and go into a meeting with the current Feuer king. During this time, the speakers will leave, and it'll just be the current Feuer king and a new giant, in which they will have a discussion with each other, and at which point in time, the current Feuer king will then go and lay down in the fire and die, but pass away in this big fire that's going on behind the throne, and the new giant will become the new Feuer king. At which time a set of armor and such will be made for him to wear, and that's kind of the appearance that he'll have. So just some fun little lore details that I have no way to work into the story. That this big fire that the giant sits in front of contains remains of unknown amount of previous Feuer kings in it. So yeah, so just some fun flavoring that I have no way to work into the story. But yeah, there's that. Now, back to Aurora getting backhanded. So she gets backhanded, and we come out there with Tyree and Sarah and they think about trying to find out how the meeting's going and if it's going good or not. And Aurora comes flying out of the door and straight out the city. So this was just kind of a fun angle to do. Using the leg streak to just sell Aurora getting launched. And Tyree absolutely dumbfounded that the meeting not going all that well. So the question is, what do they do now? So we come out here, it's now nighttime. They're still trying to find Aurora. And they found where she landed, but no Aurora. And so what's going to happen now? Aurora's missing. And their mission to try and get Feuer and Thousandland to work together might have failed. So we get here, this title page, the trooper tying into the lyrics, you fire your musket, I run you through, and we get just kind of a little bit of montage of the different fighting going on in the front lines of the Allmeyer expansion. We see here them, Allmeyer and Feuer fighting. We see Thousandland and Allmeyer fighting. We got cannons firing in the bombardment, and the Allmeyer wiping up the Feuer soldiers. And Allmeyer's ships moving through destroyed Thousandland, I guess, naval ships and such. And so things are not going good for Thousandland's or Feuer at this moment. Yeah, and here we have 7 years. I've done a couple, but here we have another point. 7 years. 7 years of Graz. It's been a long journey. Alright, Bottled Demon. So, this was kind of a fun little title page to have Sarah Virgie in the background here, and a different Sarah Virgie up inside the bottle. This is kind of a play on of the demon in the bottle idea, and so that's just kind of the idea with this title page. So for this chapter, we're really kind of getting just gosh, I'm trying to think, but this might be the first real stretch since the Solace trilogy that we've had Sarah Virgie without Aurora around, or that we followed Sarah Virgie without Aurora around. And so we get to see kind of a bit more about how he handles things and his outlook on stuff and his interaction with Tyria. We also get a redesign, which seems like we just went through one, but another redesign for the characters. So we got him. We see that Sarah Virgie is far less patient. Let's now without Aurora around, and just being spiteful and mean, just kicking that guy in the head and sending his horse away. I suppose talk a little bit about the redesign, since we're looking at Tyria right here. This was really just kind of the visual language with Tyria is she visually carries her visual weight on kind of her hips and her legs. And so this was just an attempt to try and redesign, I guess you could say, a top part thing that was a little different than the, up to this point, just kind of the sports bra look that she had been going with. With Sarah Verge, it was a little different as well. His visual designs don't change all that much. It's usually just some form of a dark colored hoodie or whatnot. So that way he's got that hood that he can put up for the visual communication of sneaking. And so just some stuff in here was to try and keep some few of the plate metal elements on it because they're inferior, and do away with the feet socks, which were just looking kind of weird. Even a few times we saw them. That's just kind of up with that. We get some look into his temperament on stuff and just kind of how Aurora has really been the person to drag him out of, I guess you could say, his angry self that he used to be in for so long. So yeah, that's just kind of stuff like that. Some other small details. We can see he's carrying 2 sleeping bags, since Aurora did not get to grab her stuff, and so just some stuff there. We also see a cow in the background, thus there's a difference between Taurans and cows. So that's just something there. And I like this environment stuff. We've got a nice fence here, a garden, a crop field, and different stuff like that. I think it's just visually nice looking. But yeah. So we got a little town here that they come into, just, trying to fill out some stuff, and we see that Feuer people still aren't liking Sarah Verge, still not liking the blueberry, just kind of keeping that motif going. And we see we got some punks here who think that they're going to be big and stuff, harassing a blueberry and such. And so we see about how well that goes, with Sarah Verge quickly swiping the apple back with his knife, and so taking the bottle. So he could be he is very dangerous to be poking right now. But yeah, kind of that, and we get just an idea of how young these two are when we can see that they are both significantly shorter than Tyria. Who, keep in mind, is not very tall. And I suppose after here we can see that I tried to give her a little metal shin plate or something there, just a way to try and increase the visual weight design on her. Also did away with the 4 belts into kind of this 3 belt design here, and added some red to her color palette, which has mostly been green and brown. But yeah, so that's just kind of some stuff there. We have there, this now can't really afford 2 rooms, so they're sharing one, and Sarah Verge having nightmares and fighting in his sleep, and we get just this adorable Tyria that's now squeaking up to snuggle next to him to keep him calm. That's now, basically that it's okay that she's there. So we're starting to kind of see some dynamic changes going on here, where Tyria's the one now able to, or starting to be the one to calm Sarah Verge down and kind of keep his, I guess, more nasty tendencies in check. Likewise, we also get the inverse from the Thousand Lands, where it was Sarah Verge comforting Tyria to help her calm down. Now it's Tyria comforting Sarah Verge to help her calm down. So we just see kind of the inverse of that element from way back then. It's a different stuff like that. So see them getting kind of rushed out because it's early morning. So rushed out so fast that Tyria has to do her hair up outside. Just that kind of thinking about the night before, and then we get a clue here Sarah Verge, when trying to find which way Aurora went, found something wrong, and that is a human footprint, which, is that a human footprint, or is it just a very big dwarf footprint? But no, it's a human one. So there's just that kind of funny little idea. And then they're trying to figure out what to do. Should they keep looking for Aurora? Should they deal with this Allmeyer problem and decide on that that they're going to help deal with the Allmeyer problem this far out, and they're going to do what Aurora would do and set aside their wants and help innocent people. So we got them looking for the trails and different stuff, and during this time, Sarah Bradley is kind of explaining to Tyria how to track and find stuff, and basically teaching her, I guess you could say, adventuring skills. So we see her growing during this time. Got a bit of an army crawl going on as they sneak up on the rocks and find nothing's there. So come here, ask for some direction, ask some questions. Then Sarah Virgin, still in a grumpy mood, but Tyria is able to check him, and so they keep going on. And just some more stuff as Tyria tries to have a good influence. And here, I suppose I forgot about this because I didn't see it behind old chat bubble, but trying to come up with some visual changes on Sarah Virgin. I gave him a sleeve on one side because I didn't want to cover up on his tattoos on his right arm here, so no sleeve there. But this just kind of ties into very much that the tattoos each character has serves as kind of a symbol for them. And so didn't want to obscure that for any extended amount of time. So you see that going on here. See them traveling, looking for different places that they could be hiding, and Sarah Virgin picks out a spot and they set up to camp out with a nice big fire that's sure to draw some attention. And we see once again we got Allmeyer agents here. So we can see kind of the leather trench coat they wear. And these ones, since they're out sneaking, they got their ninja masks on, and you can see some of their guns that they're using over-under double-barreled rifles, or sawn-off rifles, I should say. So they're shorter barrel but bigger than what you would have with a pistol. And then they get blindsided. So we see that it was a trap set up by Sarah Virgin and Tyria to try and draw them out. And so we see that, they're still formidable, they're crafty, but Sarah Virgin's craftier, he knows how to deal with them. Is there to answer some questions. I'll tie them up, start going through the notes, finding out what's going on. And this guy gives away the aid by looking at the aid. Who takes the shots at Tyria. And we see it wasn't two guys, it was three. But he only managed to injure Sarah Virgin, and Sarah Virgin, he's in for the fight. So he's immediately throwing a knife and goes in to brawl this guy as they come rolling down the hill. With the guy hitting his head and getting stunned. And that, I guess, basically costs him as Sarah Virgin is up, ready to fight, and lets him have it in a very angry manner. And we find out that Tyria is okay, and she's learning from him. One swift kick to the gunshot wound to stop someone. So she's learning, and they come back to the town that treated them so rudely and drop off at Allmeyer's spy. Or a scout, and so the town's going to get to decide what to do with that. And this now we kind of get, I guess, just a small little encapsulation of here. Tyria acknowledges that they weren't very good to Sarah Virgin, but he still went out of his way to help them. And we see here just kind of solidifying, I guess, the growth of this chapter. That Tyria is the one to help Sarah Virgin be a better person now. And so kind of we see this shifting here of I guess you could say Sarah Virgin for the longest time has followed Aurora around because she helped him to be a good person. But now he's shifting that away from Aurora and is putting that on Tyria. So we see just kind of their growth in their relationship. Really kind of, I guess you could say, coming to head and being, not I wouldn't say yet capstoned, but heavily marked in this chapter. So that's just kind of the purpose of this chapter, was to show that growth and swap with Sarah Virgin. So yeah, it's a nice little chapter. Alright, Goatman Ridge. This was a fun title page. I mean, I just like it. I think it's visually kind of a fun throwback to the old monster movies and different stuff like that. We got some clues as to what we might see with these little, I guess, hedgehog looking torch holders and such up there, and some ladders and scary rope bridges. And so I think it's just fun. And I mean, I like this lightning. This bolt of lightning is nice and shocking, I guess you can say. But yeah, so fun title page. I like it. I like a lot of this stuff. Like I said earlier, we are getting really close to where my style currently matches up very well with this. So it's just visually fun to look at, and I don't always have the most interesting things to say because they're so similar. But yeah, I like it. It's just fun. So now we find out what Aurora has been up to. She's waking up, cleaning herself with just a bucket of water, and sleeping in the buff because she doesn't have her pajamas anymore. And she puts on her new look, and this is another attempt where I try to go with getting rid of the cape design, trying something out. And as I said last time we did it, I've after this point decided it does not work. She has to have a cape element to her visual design. And we also see here that she's got a hood. And I don't think we see this hood ever really used. In fact, I think I just end up kind of getting rid of it. But this character design was at a time to try and give her kind of more of a brawler look, so that way when she has to fight around people and can't use her powers, as now she looks more, I guess you could say, like a fist fighter and stuff, and also she can put up her hood to help hide her identity. None of this ever ends up really happening here, but yeah, so those are just some fun things of why I went with this design and why I never did anything else like it again. And we can see here that Tyria and Sarah Virgin finally caught up to her, and they aren't very happy. So we get the aftermath of a nice little tussle us now, and Aurora fixes Sarah Virgin's arm up from the gunshot. Yeah, without Aurora around, he's had to deal with that. And we find out kind of why Aurora left. That really she felt that it was wrong of her to keep dragging Tyria and Sarah Virgin Tyria into these messes that she was doing. And they're not too happy and say, oh, that was a selfish thing to do. Could have at least talked to us. And now they're all together and happy. So, yep, everyone's back together. So we got a bit of a stuff going on here with Aurora kind of explaining what she's been up to and how she actually's traveled out this way. She was trying to find where the Goatmen are coming from. We've got this nice large-scale fortress here that is used to kind of defend against Goatman's primary means of entering Feuer from the map-changing lands or mountains. I forgot what I called it. And we get, once again, I like my big fortresses, and so we got another kind of mysterious-looking thing here, where we got kind of like the wall zigzagging along here. Well, we can't really see it. It's actually got a tiered fortress structure in there. We can see we got the little trail down here and some trees. Yeah, these aren't brushes; these are trees. But we can see that it sits at just these that all this stuff, as big as this fortress is, based on this trail and trees here, we can see it. It's also just dwarfed by these massive cliff sides. And even then, these are dwarfed from these massive mountains off in the distance. And we got some nice ray of light coming in from the clouds and stuff. So yeah, just a visually interesting page that I like that I've done there, and we get into practice some distance, mountains, and rocks. And we can see kind of that tiered city here in the background, or the tiered fortress and city in the background here. Let's now see Aurora likes some stuff and celebrating her jammies. She gets her jammies back, so kind of acknowledging of how she's had to been sleeping and such. Let's see now, and we get kind of an explanation as to kind of tying into, like I already said, with the visual design of why does Aurora look like this, is to try and hide, let's now that just how strong she is, and basically make her look kind of leaning into, I guess you could say, the monk fantasy of being able to just punch stuff really hard, kind of help obscure that. It also kind of ties into, like I said back with Enter the Ring, that historically she is not good at fighting without her powers, and so this is to try and up her, I guess, her weakness in that regards a little bit, so that way she can be a little bit better and more helpful in fights and with a lot of witnesses around. But yeah, so that's kind of what we see up with that.
Hello there.
Yeah, so she says goodbye to some people, to some friends she makes along the way. We see them going off the beaten path there. We have what's supposed to be like light shining down through the clouds in a sunspot here, but ends up kind of like a fog. But that's just kind of what that was attempted. Kind of just as they journey listen now into towards these distant mountains, we see the light begins to fade, and kind of just these big massive cliffs start to move further over them. And so, yeah, they're getting nervous as they get closer to the entrance. See here that Aurora is noticing Tyree and Sarah Verge, listen now, are getting closer together, and she's kind of wondering what's going on. Tyree, of course, teasing Aurora about they learned something, which Aurora is mortified about. Sarah Verge corrects the record. So just kind of some fun stuff. Just some fun Tyria hassling Aurora again. Tyria, bit of a messy, kinky girl sometimes. And Aurora, a pure and virtuous nun. And so kind of just heckling about that. So we have here them kind of just sitting around the campfire in the dark and not really able to sleep. Just wanting to stay up. As they begin, they descend up into kind of the cliff sides and the mountains. See them crawling along the edges here, looking for handholds. A big storm comes up, and we got like lightning, rain. This rain not quite as good as other ones I've done in the past. I guess it's just starting to come down. They find a cave that they can take shelter in. And so we got just this small little rock cubby drawing. I mean, not the best. But Tyria gets tuckered out and goes to sleep. And we get Aurora and Sarah Verge able to talk about things and kind of how things are changing for him. And what his thoughts on it are, and he's not entirely sure. Although I do like the water pouring up here around kind of the cave and dripping off it. So the storm has passed and it's foggy, and they continue along the cliffs. And Taria's grumpy, Aurora's scared, and everything's just kind of getting disorienting in the fog and the cliff. Enjoying the wide ground, no longer having to crawl along the edge. Listen now, they just kind of move up in this. They're just kind of gradually moving along in this place, and this kind of ties into just the strangeness of the changing lands that they're in, and how treacherous it is with sudden storms and fog banks that can trap people in it. And as they move along, they're just moving along and really not finding anything until they see a light, and you can see it just way up across a couple of ridges and through the fog. So they get closer and they see kind of these hedgehogs, torch holders. There's no real, well, to say there's not a real reason why they're designed this way, as opposed to just a stick poking out of a crack in the rocks or whatnot. I thought it was just a way to kind of add to the unnatural look of things that the Goatman they instead of just taking like a stick and put in some fire or torch, whatever, on the end of it and sticking that in places, they'll make these little hedgehogs that can be set up instead of basically anywhere that has enough of leg room. And so it's just to kind of make things look a little different and off. And we hear the drums out in the distance, and they look over their edge, and then we see kind of this big festival panel. This one I am very proud of. Kind of just you got the crowd here highlighted by the fire. We got this rock wall here with the markings on it, trophies displayed across here, some flags and different stuff like that. So I think this is just one of a really fun panel to do. Oh, of course, and we got this guy here in the middle that we don't quite get a good view of yet, but just that. We get a better view of him here. So we see that the fire used by flare is green, and people appear from it, and they are dragged off this now to this little pit thing, and the throats slashed and fill this small little pit with blood. And so, just kind of a nasty looking ceremony thing. This stuff here in the bottom of the pit is actually supposed to be obsidian. But I found out obsidian is really hard to draw. So yeah, that's my attempt at it. There's not a whole lot really to go on other than we're just kind of witnessing what the Goatmen do in their own lands and kind of why are they invading. And it's to get captives. So that way they can drain them of blood, in which they then grab a goat, go up to the pit, throw it in, and as we see the blobs, and out comes a new Goatman emerging from the blood. This is kind of tying into some of the distortion of this place where the pit itself isn't really that deep. And so, kind of as the Goatman stands up in there, it's not, the goat gets thrown into this pit, kind of, I don't know, broken down or through dark magic or whatever, is formed into this Goatman and then rises up from the pit. But the pit itself is only like a few feet deep, or maybe like 2 feet deep or whatnot. So this is just kind of playing with the distortion of and unnaturalness of what's happening here. Although I do kind of like this. I think this looks pretty good, getting the viscousness of the blood kind of running off the horns and different stuff. So that's how the Goatmen are formed. So Aurora and Sarah Verge and everyone, they're trying to leave and get out of there after witnessing that thing. And Tyria decides that they should ruin the Goatman's day. And so Sarah Verge has gone off to scout, and Aurora and Tyria are kind of talking about what's going on. And kind of how their relationship is working. And Tyria basically says that, yeah, she knows that Sarah Verge is a little rough around the edges, and that she's willing to work with that. So now. And so just kind of that, I guess you could say, I guess that aspect that kind of Tyria is acknowledging that that Sarah Verge isn't going to be an easy case, and kind of her views on that. And with, of course, a few little teases towards Aurora, just to close up the conversation. Listen now. And Sarah Verge is coming back to kind of report what's happening. Aurora's tripping, and we're finding that things just aren't going that well for Sarah Verge and Aurora are really tired and clumsy. You can see that underneath their eyes, they're getting bags and stuff, and they're not working at their best right now. So we have the goats, just, kind of what do they do in the time? They make themselves trophies, fight with each other and sleep and just kind of chill. Um, and we see that they get spotted by, so not even so much a lookout, just someone kind of chilling up there in their domain. And so they're trying to escape as the goats come bounding down the hill, or the cliffside. Not the goat stuff. They don't need to worry about gravity, and they try to escape this botched situation of theirs. And so Roar throws, of course, a hammer, makes a big rock slide, taking out a number of the Goatmen, but more importantly, providing a major distraction so that they could escape. And they're in this little hidey hole. They try to grab, but Tyria said to grab Aurora, pull her back in, and stop her from going, and put Sarah Roge in the dangerous lap pillow, which immediately incapacitates him. And Aurora is now also asleep. And so we kind of see that they've finally been given into exhaustion and have fallen asleep. And so they wake up and we kind of find out a bit of what's going on here. Keep in mind that they felt uneasy coming up to the mountains, or this kind of the mountain entrance. And it ties into that this place has a very unnatural atmosphere to it that makes people nervous. And so keep them from sleeping and force them to push themselves to the extreme. And with Aurora and Sarah Verge, they are very used to danger and adventuring and such. And so they're willing to push well past what they should in order to keep doing the task at hand. Tyria, not having the same experience they have, she was willing and able to fall asleep when she got tired enough. And so her falling asleep during the storm ended up being a benefit because she was the only one clear-headed enough to check them and keep them from running themselves into further exhaustion. So that's just kind of a nice, I'd say, little explanation of what goes on here, why this place is so dangerous. It's not just the Goatmen, it's just the whole land itself is, I hesitate to use the term rotten because nothing really grows there, but undesirable. So we have here, see kind of some part of the ceremony pit. We can see it's really not that deep. Kind of like I said, indicating the unnaturalness of the depth for forming Goatmen. And Aurora promptly blows it up, thus ending or slowing the Goatmen's emergence, advancements, and such. Basically, no new Goatmen from this hole. And of course, that draws attention. And I like this panel, this explosion, kind of how it comes around her a bit. We got a nice lot of dirt, rocks, lightning, and a light wave, I don't know what called them, blasting out from the point of impact. I like this one. It's another fun explosion. I'm glad I've been able to figure out explosions because they are they can be quite difficult to do until once you really get to break them. Once you're up until the point where you're able to mentally break them down and understand them. So we see kind of the crushed remains of the pit, with the Goatman kind of looking around, undoubtedly very angry. Let's now see that the Goatmen are kind of stupid without their leader, the six-horned goat here. There's not a whole lot to really go off of. Why does he have six horns? It's just to make him look more menacing and not like the other Goatmen. But it does kind of tie into that. I had an idea. Most Goatmen would have 2 horns, and then a rank above that to have 4 horns, and then the leader would have 6 horns. But I decided to scrap the 4-horned variant because they really added nothing to the story. So that's just kind of why he has 6 horns, is to make him look more menacing and kind of show that he's different from all the other Goatmen. So yeah, he's actually one of my favorite bad guy designs that I've done with Grat so far. So we got Sarah Verge out here, causing trouble with the Goatmen, taking them out swift and quietly and drawing their attention. See them coming charging at them. Chasing after them. One of the fun things with the Goatmen to do was just coming up with all the different kind of crazy trophies and armor and weapon designs that they might have. Just because they didn't have a real uniform, it was just make it look messy and kind of like stuff stitched together. And so yeah, that's just kind of some fun. We can see that going on here. Got Aurora with the two hammers, creating some explosions. Tyria, of course, popping out the slurs. She's a messy one. And from the dust, we see the Goatman leader emerge. Tyria takes a shot at him. Of course, is able to hit him. Takes a hit. And Aurora goes in for the fight. Only to find that this Goatman has enough power that he's able to intercept her blade, or at least stage 1. So this hasn't been something that's really happened. Since Xura. Listen out, way back in the Exaltation book. Something's able to intercept Aurora's blade, although I don't think that's true. I think Ironjaw's claws can intercept Xura's blade. Aurora's blade. It's been a while. So that might be possible. If he's able to intercept her blade, it's likely just because he's distorting the space around his claws and creating basically a bunch of, I guess you could say, little holes that it can't pass through. So kind of like catching stuff with a cheese grater. We see here that he's able to heal up from being shot in a very gross manner as his blood and stuff just kind of slurps back into him. So not like Aurora's nice, pretty heal with a bright flash of light in his gun. It's like, no, this is just gross, rapid mending stuff for making a nice gross face. So she pops back and they fight and some mighty swings, and he's deploying headbutts. He is a goat. He likes to hit stuff with his head, and he immediately does that. So Aurora patches herself up. I wonder if the Goatman thinks that's gross. Don't know. So, see, Cerverge shows up after losing after the ambush, and Aurora and the Goatman square off against each other. But Tyria's got an idea. So Aurora's trying to hold her own against the Goatman. This now, swinging, blocking stuff, taking hits, and returning some on her own. As they just kind of walk up. See Cerverge is there with his guns, and Tyria comes sliding in with hers as they fire him point blank with scatter shots into him. And thus kind of tearing him up a lot and injuring him quite a bit. And then Aurora is quickly following that up by cutting off his arm that holds the axe, and then cutting into him 2 times with the kind of doing a dual swing with her sword, before delivering a cut to the head that sends it rolling away. But rolling away is not far enough. She delivers a nice kick to it, launching it off into the horizon. So hopefully that kills him, missing his head. And it looks like he's done. So they decide to get out of there as we hear Goatman bellowing in the distance. Are they stopped for good, or is this just delayed their advancements? Likely it's just delayed their advancements. So he's... Actually, I'll go ahead and talk about this here. So kind of one of the ideas with the Goatmen is that they aren't necessarily just a people. They are more akin to a force of nature. They are nothing short of an evil force that is dependent on consuming other intelligent life in order to propagate itself. So that way it can then spread itself even further. So it is a destructive, evil force that, like I said, is more akin to being part of nature, much like a hurricane or something like that. Part of the idea for this was to kind of illustrate why Feuer is such a warrior-based society. It's because they have to deal with these guys. These guys have been a constant threat to them, and so they've always had to push back against them to keep themselves safe. And it's ultimately something that they can never truly be rid of. No more than you can stop hurricanes or anything like that. You can't stop the Goatmen. They're just going to keep coming. And unlike a hurricane, the Goatmen actually want your destructions. You can't reason with them, and they are actively evil. And so that's kind of why Feuer, like I said, Feuer is such a warrior society. This is what they have to contend with. This is why their culture has developed how it did. And so that's just kind of not so much an exploration, a bit of an exploration into this aspect of kind of Feuer, I guess, history in their environment and such. So yeah, a bit of fun. We got here, they managed to get out of that place, and kind of, I guess, just them, I guess, relaxing and talking about the problems. Talking about the problems, just kind of talking about, what's happened, and is this really going to stop the Goatman? No, sometimes the world is just cruel on its own. And Goatmen are just, I guess, that for this part of the world, are just that cruelty that exists. Alright, so in the line of duty. So, I guess before I get into a bit about this chapter, talk about a couple of things here. We guys look at the Feuer soldier grave. As we can see, it's their sword kind of cemented into a block and put over their head. This is very reminiscent of the soldier grave, with the rifle standing up, the boots and the helmet sitting on it. So it's inspired a lot by that. It kind of ties also into Feuer culture that just as the warrior served in life, now that the warrior can rest, so can the blade. So that's why the blades are buried with them in such a manner as to show that they were an honorable warrior. But they're cemented so far up to here and stuff, so that way they can never be drawn and used again. Thus kind of earning their rest as well. And so it's just kind of a nice little lean into that aspect of them. Kind of a long, I guess, getting into this chapter a bit, is this was actually in many regards, I don't want to use the word a soulful chapter of mine, but it's a chapter that reflected a struggle that I went through shortly before the time of writing it as such. Thus now, as I've indicated with different writings before and stuff, that I am a man of faith. And shortly before doing this chapter, I went through my own little struggle and trial of faith. And so kind of one of the things explored a bit in this chapter is how we live according to how our beliefs influence how we live. And kind of a question is, if we didn't have that beliefs, would we be at where we are now? And experience the trials that we had. But that'll come up far later into the chapter. But yeah, I guess that's just something I don't think I've really shared about this chapter, is that it's actually one that was written and drawn a lot from in a very personal manner for me, which is not actually real normal for a lot of my writings. That's a lot of my writing and stuff is impersonal. I would go as far as I can consider it functional, or borderline functional. A lot of spelling in there, but rarely ever personal. Yeah, so moving on. So we got a nice view from this town up here. One of the things I found that was really useful is like town map generators and different stuff like that. Wish I'd used them more. Wish I knew about them earlier. Maybe they just weren't available. But this is based off of a map generation of a town, to kind of give me an idea of just how the city blocks work and different stuff like that. And so it isn't a one-to-one of the exact map that it generated, but just to give me an idea about how do stuff blocks, how are housing blocked, how do inner city roadways work, and different things like that. One thing I added was this river kind of looping through this town like this, because once again, I like water. I like water wrecks. I like rivers. So we see that there. We got the bigger town hall here. We got a little park here and stuff. Those were all things that I manually added to give a bit more variety to the town. I guess stuff outside the walls here. Wasn't out fields and forests and things like that. So just kind of an interesting thing, I guess, the advantages of generating tools and such, and that is you don't have to exactly go with what it generates. You could just use the generation to give you a general gist and an idea of how something should look or work, and then you make modifications to specify your needs for it. Also, I'm supposed to note that the generation was from a top-down view, and I swapped it to a slightly isometric view for this. So yeah, just some fun stuff in there. And we got them just kind of relaxing, and I'm just trying to make an interesting looking little place for food or whatnot. Putting some little vines and stuff here where they're staying at, and Tyria grabbing Sarah and running off, and Aurora's wondering what they're up to. So, alright, so she does use the hood. Alright, so apparently she does use that here. She goes into her own sneak mode and is trying to follow them along and see what they're up to. And see that they go into a inn. And Aurora, of course, makes her assumptions and is shocked by it. So she waits, and she waits, and she waits, and she waits. She waits a very long time in a not very comfortable position. That leg is asleep. That leg is chalked out. So that's just how that's going to go. You can even see it looks like her leg has fallen asleep. Yep. I'm surprised I even considered that back then, but it looks like I did. And so we come here and find out that something went on, but not what we've seen. It seems like Taria's crying. Aurora's upset that they snuck out and different stuff like this. And so just some fun, I guess, back and forth about playing with expectations of what Aurora thinks they're going to do and then what they actually have gone and done. I like just this humor idea of, listen, that they knew she would follow, and that kind of tying into that Aurora is not good at sneaking. So they ditch her, and we tie into like this view of the town where we can see the river from earlier that they're walking by, and then unexpectedly run into Tyria's parents, and so we get this, nice and start with black and white and then fade into color as we get more action of what's going on her. And kind of what's happening here about how dare she breaks from, I guess, a family and is dating a blueberry. So, Tyria's upset about that. That's now, and we find out here. Let's now. I'm trying to think. But anyhow, so all right, so yeah. All right, sorry, I had to do a bit of reading there to find out if they addressed it, and it kind of ties into a little bit. Well, I say a little bit, but we find out that Tyria had a brother. Now, this is something I was hesitant about doing. The unexpected sibling or whatnot, but given how we've never seen much of Tyria's family, it would make sense. Basically, it was such an unexplored area of her heritage, her family aspect to her, that I could do a lot of different stuff with it. Which I forgot to point this out, but yeah, she has of course, a Tauren mom, but her dad is a dwarf. One detail that is noted is she actually has her dad's eyes. They both have the same green eyes. That is the same color palette and the same color. That's just the eye drop of the eye color for Tyria that I've put on him. And so this is to try and kind of help sell the connection between the two of them. That she has characteristics from her dad. And of course, in Tauren like a mom, like I explained earlier, with how crossbreeds work here. One thing also to note is her mom has bigger horns than Taria does. This ties into that her mom would likely to have had both Tauran parents. So she's got a full genome, so she would have be able to grow the larger horns and taller height. You see, that's one thing that I guess I was hesitant about making Tyria's dad a dwarf. This idea that, oh, Tyria's short because her dad's a dwarf. That's not really the case. Tyria is short is because she doesn't have a full Tauran genome. So yes, it's because her dad is a dwarf, but not because of the way one would think. So that's just, I guess, a little bit of detail where we get to find out more about Tyria and her heritage and kind of why she is, but a little bit about how she looks, how she does. So just kind of some fun tying in with that. So yeah, we just move up to this page, and we come here, and we have everyone waking up. Let's see now, them getting thrown out again with the blueberry. And everyone's yelling about something's going down, and find out that a lot of that basically injures from a battle are coming in, and so they're trying to find rooms to put them in and stuff like that. And so we see just how all the townspeople are working together and pitching in to try and help the injured people. Those that can't walk are being stretchered out, and even those that are injured but can still work some are helping to get them out into places. And everyone's just pushing and yelling and trying to get people into a place to recover. And we have Tyria finally get reunited with her little brother, who looks like he's really bad off. So we see that Tyria is sad. Us now that her brother is gone, and kind of mopey, and see that she needs some comforting. Ser Verge, as much as he likes Tyria, he still struggles with this concept. So Aurora's there to help him about how to be a, I guess, emotional, helpful support person. We got some stuff here as Tyria and Aurora listen now, talking about what's going on here. We got a nice little, I guess, joke we're playing around with Sarah Verge's big blue floppy ears. And so that's just, I guess, a little interesting, just a little fun drawing there, is playing around with the physical characteristics of him. Which isn't something that I've done a whole lot of, but yeah, just that. And so they're coming up with a plan that Aurora can heal a lot of people. I mean, she's really good at healing, and could save a lot of people, but Feuer doesn't like magic, so how are they going to pull it off? And they say, well, they're going to sneak around and do some healing. I suppose one small detail also to note is that they're camping out in a little greenery back behind some houses here. So that's just a nice little detail of kind of thought of where they're at, is that they were kind of in a little green spot behind these houses. So, see Tyria going off to do something. Let's see now. And different stuff here with the townspeople. We see someone with a bandage on their head. We see a Kern here. Listen now with looks like his wife and daughter. And we can see that he doesn't look that old. Small details we can actually see down here is that he's missing his leg. And so while people are happy to have some of their family members back, unfortunately the reason they're back is because they have been maimed and injured. And so it's just the sad, I guess you could say, conflict of what happens is that, you want people, you want your family to return from the war and such. You want them out of that dangerous spot, but until the war is over, it's likely, if they make an early return, it's going to be an extremely terrible event. And so just kind of that conflict of interest, I guess, that from the civilian perspective of what it's like. So we come here to the cemetery. And we see a lot of freshly dug and buried graves. As we can see, the grass has been replaced over it, but we can see that the dirt is still around the edge from being filled in and such. And Taria is there with her parents and takes a seat with them, and they just kind of talk. And we hear about how and just kind of, their perspectives about how Taria was disowned by her dad just the day before, but now their son is gone and she's their only kid left, and kind of she lost her brother, they lost her son, and it's like, that they might not be happy, or he might how to put it. Basically, they're still family. They're all that each other's got left, and when you can truly lose someone, have them taken away by conflict, do you really want to be throwing your family out? Is that really something you want to be doing? And so you see this kind of going on here, and kind of their dad is kind of pointing, acknowledging that her brother, Rodin, I think it looks like I called him, that he always did trust Taria, and that she was never going to bring dishonor to their family or to herself. As we can see that she's still kept her dagger that she's had so long ago. It's no longer mounted into her gun. She took that out, got rid of the little bayonet attachment, and now just has it with her. And we see that her dad is basically kind of saying that he should have courage, like his son, to still trust in Taria. So a little bit of mending there. Let's see now. And then Aurora and Sarah J talking about stuff. Kind of what's going on. And so we see this courage and trust go into action as Taria introduces her friends to the mom and dad. And the dad just making a general thing clear: don't hurt the girl, don't hurt the daughter. And so that's about how well that's going on. So we got Aurora and the mom, and they're getting along much better. Kind of what they're doing here is folding up cleaned bandages and sheets and stuff for the injured. And they're just kind of explaining about what it's been like to have to take care of Taria and watch after her, kind of their perspectives and stuff, kind of giving the report to mom, and kind of just going over the situation. So not too much really in these pages. Just I guess I don't know what to call this stuff, character moments or things like that. Just a chance to have Aurora and Sarah Verge bounce off someone with a little different perspective and point of interest. And where the mom, she's been worried about her kid, and so she wants to know, is her kid all right, and stuff like that. I think a lot of what this idea for the writing on Taria's mom comes from is having spent a lot of time talking with my own mom. As now I'm the oldest of all my siblings, and so just kind of listening to her, kind of what she worries about with her own, with me and my siblings, and kind of as we've gone off to school and different things like that, just a worry that she has, and so kind of try to put some of that in there. That there's just aspects to, aspects to a mother that I don't always see reflected, and it's just how to describe it. I'm trying to show a soulful worry that it's something that no matter how much you prepare for it, it will never, you can't truly get rid of it. If you're a good mom, it'll truly not go away. But yeah, so stuff like that. As well, also mothers' gratitude for those who help take care of their kids and keep them safe. You even see that she's got a nickname for Taria, her little tinkerer. So, yeah, I guess that's just a nice little moment there. And so they separate, and and Aurora now Aurora has to go and do her sneaking about and help people in her own special way. So we got kind of this series of sneak panels. I like this one with Aurora. She's got kind of a hooded white cape. That's going to be great for sneaking in there, sneaking around as a white cape. But just some fun stuff in there with this design. Where kind of one of her character details is this hair braid or whatever it is, and this hair over the shoulder of her, and that would kind of go away and be really hard if I had to hood fully over her. So I made a actual design to have it loop behind this one horn here. So this side is actually out or more visible. Now this is much like a white cape, not much good for sneaking, but I like it. I think it creates a little bit of visual interest with it. You can see the cape going and sneak. She moves around does her healing, and then sneaks out. And I've been in. This was fun. I'm coming up with this. I say coming up, but using this cape design to try and get some practice in drawing kind of fabric flows and such. Like I've said a couple of times now, Aurora needs a cape visually somewhere on her. So we have just as they go around, I'm trying to help people. Some humor Tyria and Sir Virgil trying to boost Aurora up to a window. Healing, I'm trying to avoid getting caught. Healing, struggling to get out of a window, and just kind of going around and doing a lot of work as sunrise slowly starts to come up, and see Aurora just a white caped figure moving silently through the night. So come morning, everyone's sleeping. Sarah Virgil and Tyria are snuggling. Aurora is sawing logs, as she, after a night like that, probably needs to. The parents came by at exactly the wrong time, so the dad is furious at Blueberry. So Sarah Virgil gets up, and we get a short little fight, or to say the start of a nice little fight as Sarah Virgil tries to jump over the dwarf, which he's ready for that. I think some points that his air game is on point, as he immediately grabs Sarah Virgil and throws him to the ground, which doesn't deter Sarah Virgil too much. He's immediately there to deliver a kick. Might be Tyria's dad, but he's an angry dad, so Sarah Virgil's better. He's got to fight hard. Sarah Virgil, gets back up. The dad's there to knock him back down again, to try and keep him from being able to use his height advantage. Sarah Virgil tussles with him. We see that the dad uses Sarah Virgil's tusk against him once again. I like this idea of toying into just an element of Sarah Virgil's character playing into the actual fight. Just now, kind of Sarah Virgil trying to knock him off to protect him. It manages to roll out of this. Manages to roll out of the hold, and the dad gets up so ready to fight some more, but it's just too slow. Sarah Virgil is just fast enough to get a knee him in the face with a solid hit. Sarah Virgil is ready to go, but the dad's willing to accept this defeat for now. Gotta blow out those blood boogers, and they're just going to leave the food here and go fix up the dad. So that's how well that went. Sarah Virgil is fighting with his potential in-laws already. So Tyria is quite thrilled that Sarah Virgil did a good job and conducted himself well in the fight against her dad. Thus, as we'll see actually in the next panel, kind of why she's so happy about that. And also, likewise, it's a good thing Aurora was asleep. To which we find out that Aurora is shocked that Sarah Virgil would beat up somebody's dad, or Tyria's dad. And so Tyria is just there to explain that what Sarah Virgil demonstrated was honor in battle against her father. And so, since Sarah Virgil didn't use any weapons or any magic or anything like that, he beat him fair and square. So Sarah Virgil proved that he is a honorable fighter. To which Aurora thinks they're weird. But Taria seems happy with it. So we got a bit of a crowd, copy and pasting in this crowd. It's down there, and they meet up with their parents again and talk about different stuff, and kind of about rumors that's going on about them hearing about the healer that a lot of people are miraculously recovering, and her dad's a little suspicious about it, but he expects a little bit more. I think we should just be grateful. Looking a little, I guess you could say, sheepish, but I don't know how to describe it. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't do everything. Yeah. So just a bit of fun there. And so we see just kind of rumors going around the town. As more people are talking about all this miraculous healing that's happening. And so they're making plans again for tonight about how they're going to get to make stuff work for tonight. So we have Taria out making little noisemakers. She's out in one of these farms, got a little light in the ditch, and lights some compressed ammo with some fuses to make little noise poppers to go off, creating a distraction. And while everyone's distracted, we're running around with half her face uncovered, doing the healing, and Sarah Verge is there to scout for her and keep her safe. Taria, just casually sneaks back in, and it looks like their diversion and work all went well together. All worked well together, except one person was not fooled. Her dad, who he knew who's able to make such a racket. It would be Taria. So he knows that she's up to trouble, and he finds that spirit of honor, Aurora sheepishly waving. I had a lot of fun expressions with these last few chapters. I have to make sure I keep that up because these are just really expressive stuff, and I like that. But her dad's just incredibly angry at this turn of events, that they're the ones kind of using magic and different stuff that are creating using magic, kind of violating Feuer honor. But we get a hint here that he doesn't want to be part of it, not because so much of what they're doing, but because something that would mean to him. And so we'll find out in a bit kind of what that is. So Aurora's sleeping again, trying to recover from that hard work. And Taria is trying to figure out what to do. And Sarah Verge is not much help. So we come here to Taria, knock on the door, going home. When I say going home, I'm going to where her parents are. And we get a nice little picture here of their family. So we see a bit into, say, a picture, but kind of, I guess it'd be a painting. Let's see now of their family, kind of where they, we get a view of Taria when she was younger. We can see her hair, that her original hair color was light brown. So I guess much like Aurora, who she would also have originally brown hair. Let's see now. And we see the younger brother there. So, just a nice little family picture. These here are Everbells? Blue tulips? No, not blue tulips. I can't remember now what these flowers are, but they're like a little blue, thick group of flowers that stick up. The reason why I put those in the background was just from when I was out in Texas on my mission. There was a field of those near in one of the areas I was in, and a couple of times we would see brides doing wedding photos out in that field, just because it was a good spot. So that's just a small nod of where that came from. That obscure little memory. But coming down here, we see Tyria, and we see that she's a little bit older, and we can see that as she's gotten older, that she magically dyed her hair blue, being a little bit more rebellious. But also we can see that she's recognized that she's short, so she started, tying her hair up like this, so that way she'll look taller. And that is actually part of her visual. That is the reason why reason why she does that. I think perhaps maybe a better way to describe it is I did the concept art for her with having her hair tied up because she's a mechanic working on stuff. But so that's why that happened. But then I took that element of her character design and folded in a lore reason for why she does that. More so with her, or a personal reason for why she does that. So that's just a fun little note with her. That she was always a little rebellious. One even talks about how she ran away from home when she was still really young. And we can see here, even in this panel, that there's a tack on the wall that a picture is missing. We see that her dad has it, and we got kind of the painting of Rodin, Tyria's brother, when he entered the military service. So we got kind of more what he looked like, because we didn't really get a good look at him. Listen up, before he was buried. So this is really the only look we'll get of him. We see, still the brown hair. Like Tyria, he's got the shorter horns, not having the full genome and such. But yeah, so this is really the only picture we'll get of him throughout the whole series. We can see his armor does not have the red paint on that because he is not going into battle yet. So this would just be like at his, I guess, not necessarily recruitment ceremony, but officially joining ceremony and such. They just have a bit of a conversation, and we kind of get like I said earlier at the start of this video, kind of what I consider the real personal stuff of the story, and that is kind of the question of the dad here is wondering, did he have to die if they weren't Feuer, if they had Allmeyer magic, or if they had Thousand Land magic, or Feuer weapons, would his son still be alive? And so that's kind of the hard truth that Tyria's dad doesn't want to face, or is afraid to face. No. That if they were somebody else, would he still have a son? Right? Would his son still be there? And not to go too much into it, but that kind of tied with my own faith. That if I believed something else, or wasn't who I was, would I be in the positions I'm at? Yeah, I said positions I'm at, but would things have gone better for me in my life? Would I still? No, how to put it? Things still aren't going the best for me when I did this page, and still aren't as I'm recording this. So it's kind of just a question of, listen now, if I was somebody else, would this have happened? And so it's just a question that I don't feel that there's a real answer to. And I don't think I even give a real answer here, but Tyria just kind of talks about how she's seen so many different people and stuff, and found similarities and differences within them, but ultimately, listen now. Had to put it, but ultimately that, well, there may have been good things that the other cultures have. It doesn't mean that they have to give up their being Feuer to have those good things. And she says we don't have to give up what's good about us to have these nice things, or to have things such as Tyria. Kind of demonstrating she doesn't have to give up her Feuer honor to use a gun. In fact, in a way, her using a gun allows her to fight for other people and such, which is the whole reason why Feuer fight to begin with, is to protect them, their families and their neighbors and their homes and such. And with Allmeyer technology, Tyria is able to engage in that and ultimately feel the real spirit of Feuer battle. But yeah, so that's just, I guess, a lot of different things where it just all kind of comes home to nest on this page. And big questions are asked, but vaguely answered. Now, moving on. So, let's see, meet up with people and they get ready for their final night of trying to heal up, final night of their healing gig. So we see that it ties into that green field we saw kind of at the start of the chapter with that big overview where they're keeping a whole lot of the injured people because they couldn't fit, they didn't have enough rooms to put people in. So they're getting ready to sneak in. Tyria creates a diversion, and Sarah Verge and Aurora go up over the wall. And Sarah Verge climbs down a tree, and Aurora just falls out of it. Except something a little unexpected happens. They find Tyria's there. They just let her walk in. And so we get a little bit of humor here with Aurora realizing she didn't need to fall out of a tree to get in. So we got Aurora healing, a guard, but someone, a caregiver. I don't know entirely what to call them because, I mean, more of the watch would be the way you describe, help soldiers that may need help in the night, or help the injured that may need help in the night, and to keep a general watch on things. So we see that the light goes off here. We see that this light is very bright and it doesn't do much to be obscured by a tent. We even got Sarah Verge's shadow here as he stands on this blind part of the tent. He's trying to follow this light and find out what's going on, and he sees Tyria. So he goes over to confront her. And Tyria tries to very badly bluff from her way out of it. Bluff her way about what she's doing there. And he's not exactly buying it. And it's got some questions. Let's see now. Aurora and Sarah Verge are getting ready to jump this guy if they need, but who comes to the rescue? It's the parents. So her dad is there to cover her, pick up the finished delivering stuff, and they're talking about how they're going to go home. And we find out what are they doing here? And we find out that the ability to lie runs pretty well just in their family. They got about the same lying capacity. About what are they doing here? Stuff. So just a bit of fun humor with that. I'm showing some more similarity between the dad and Tyria. So they get out of there, and basically the dad's saying that that basically comes to accept that Aurora and Sarah Verge and Tyria, they mean no harm by what they're doing. They're out there trying to help people, and he doesn't understand it, but he trusts her that, or he has the courage to trust her that they won't dishonor themselves with their actions, and that they really are trying to do good stuff for people. So I guess just a nice little warming moment as the dad slowly come to terms with that. Yeah, he might not entirely understand or be comfortable with what they're doing, but he believes that they truly have no malice with what their actions. And so, isn't that what I say? They have no malice, and what they're doing is good. They are really helping people. So isn't that all that really matters? So we come here to the morning with Tyria waking up, seeing Sarah Verge and Aurora have gotten to stay inside someplace to sleep. And even her dad is willing to accept that at least Sarah Verge is quiet. But we got to Aurora. She can snore. She can raise the dead with her snoring. So a bit of humor there. We see Tyria's character actually goes through a detail change here, as from this point on, her character, just the design, will now actually carry her Feuer dagger on the back of her belt. Let's see now. And so that's just kind of, I guess, a note of how this story has impacted her character, and kind of one of the things that will permanently stay from this point on for character design. So I guess that's just a nice little note there. Let's see now. We got him sad to see her go and wants her to come back, or to be safe and come back. So we cut away. So we get one of the rare cutaways now. It's been a while since we've seen these, but we finally get another one. We see a Thousand Land ship with some paint disguise coming up to the coastline, or off the coastline. We got Feuer standing here. We got the Thousand Land King now we can see as they come face to face to meet with each other. We don't yet know what's happening. And we can see here on the Feuer King's sword the mark from where Aurora had cut it. So we can see that he's kept the sword, or that he's kept a mark and hasn't allowed it to be fixed yet. So we got the meeting in between these two, and we'll see what's going to, and we're going to eventually find out what happens here.